Trying to predict the future is a discouraging and hazardous occupation because the prophet invariably falls between two stools. If his predictions sound at all reasonable, you can be quite sure that in 20 or at most 50 years, the progress of science and technology has made him seem ridiculously conservative. On the other hand, if by some miracle a prophet could describe the future exactly as it was going to take place, his predictions would sound so absurd, so far-fetched, that everybody would laugh him to scorn. This has proved to be true in the past, and it will undoubtedly be true, even more so, of the century to come.
Hello, everybody. I would like to ask you to go with me on a little journey. Please close your eyes and just listen to my voice. It's early morning. You're still lying in bed, but it's a wonderful day because there's this great event in Vilnius and you are ready and pumped to go. You are completely restored because your heart rate and your health have been tracked 1,000 times per second for over 10 years. And there's somebody who will not let you forget it.
Labas rytas, pone. Graci diena. Ir nematyti jokių kvailų rusiskų dronų. Jūsų pagrindinis susitikimas sepopietę 16:45. Telia Technologijų dienos renginys Vilniuje. Praėjo 10 metis. Nuo tada, kai paskutinį kartą kalbėjote dūmų fabrike, nevėluok.
And so you throw your legs over the edge of the bed and you throw a slightly annoyed look at Robert the robot in the corner of the room who is cleaning up and taking your clothes from the floor where you left them last night. So much has changed in the last decade. The world is not as it was. We have less property, less things that we own, less pictures on the wall. But as we stand up and grab the glasses from the side of our bed and make our way to the bathroom, the room springs to life. A dragon flies straight at us. Virtual reality, augmented reality, artificial intelligence. He was left behind by your children when they went to university and you call him Fury. Robert, remind you...
Sir, just a reminder, if I may. Please don't forget to put on pants again before you leave the house. The neighbors were not amused last week. And don't give me that look.
Yes,
I'm a
yes.
robot. I don't have any wiggly bits hanging out.
Thank you, Robert. And so you make your way to your office. You look out across the sparkling Swiss Alps, but that's not where you need to be. And so you say, I'm ready. And the room in front of you transforms, and here are 500 Lithuanians gathered together in 2035 to talk about the future. You can open your eyes now, and I really do hope that you close them to go with me on this little journey. I'm just curious, can we get the slides back? How many of you think that little story I just told you is something that you will actually experience within your lifetime? Please give me a show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and some people in the back that have heard me before and they're already convinced. That is not a lot of people, especially not thinking about what kind of industry we're in. This is a technology industry. But I would like to ask you to hold on to the ideas that you have about the future and the present. To understand where we are, we first need to understand where we come from. So I want to do a little quiz with all of you. My first question has been on the screen, so you've had some time to think about it. How old is Homo sapiens? How old is humanity in its current shape and form, our most recent hardware update? Yes, go ahead. 200,000 years once. Anybody else? for the refrigerator, or in this case, a year-long free SIM card from, no, I'm sorry, I can't offer that. 10,000 years, twice, anybody else? 100,000? More, yes, very good. Homo sapiens, believe it or not, is 1 million years old. We used to think that it was 200,000 years. But in 1992, in China, we found a Homo sapiens skull, and it wasn't until very recently, with updated carbon dating technology with AI, that we were able to establish that the skull was 1 million years old. That is a very long time. In fact, it's such a long time that we humans are not capable of fully comprehending how long that really is. And that is one of our problems, our inability to understand exponentiality or very long time scales. So my second question, how old is civilization? How long ago is it since we started to build villages, to start plowing the fields, and went from hunter-gatherers to farmers and then to office workers? Took a while, actually, the last step. Anybody? Yes? 10,000 years once. Anybody else? 6,000 years, 12,000 years. Anybody? Yeah, go ahead. Two? 15,000 years. One more? Which? Very good answer. So the answer that I usually give, as do most historians, archaeologists, and paleontologists, is between 30,000, 32,000, and 12,000 years ago. That is when the agrarian revolution took place. Which is, of course, a really weird term, revolution, for something that apparently took 20,000 years. Most revolutions are very fast, short, and bloody. And, of course, what happened before those 32,000 years? Now, I'm not going to speculate, but I did very much enjoy Ancient Apocalypse on Netflix, which speculates that maybe in those 900,000 years prior to that, there might have been other civilizations. We have no proof, I can't say, but this is all we know. And still, these last 12,000 years, so much has happened, and yet we know almost nothing about it. But what we do know is that for the vast majority of the last 12,000 years, technology went at a linear pace. As you can see here, and on the other side, the end of the agrarian revolution was minus 12 or minus 10,000 before Christ. And then it would take 6,000 years before one of the most important technological discoveries in human history took place.
I call it the wheel.
I don't think so. What does it do?
It rolls.
Yeah, so does a bagel, okay? A bagel you can eat. One of the worst ideas I've ever heard.
It's okay to laugh. I mean, let's be honest, we all have at least one family member, friend, or colleague that is exactly like this. Every time we have a great idea, they're like, I don't know. It's not strange because that's how we are wired. I'll get to this, but you know, our population, humanity, is a bell curve. And most of us are not really about change. We are not about risk. We're about stability, building a family, having a nice life. And so when people come around with crazy ideas, we're not right away very enthusiastic. It would be another 2,000 years before the Iron Age began. The first time we smelted iron. And then another 4,000 years before there was a sudden explosion of things happening. What happened 400 years ago? Anybody? Say again? We stopped burning witches. Yes, we did stop burning witches. That is very true. But what else happened? The printing press, very good, 1473, I think, off the top of my head. But it was even more than just the printing press. Something important happened. We have a name for it. And when I walk onto the stage, I walk right back into it to give you a hint. See? Now it's here, and now it's gone. Almost. It's called the Enlightenment. That moment in history when we first started to realize that if you have logical, if you develop your logic, which was already much older from the Greeks, but if you use logic, you can build a framework called the scientific method, and you can start to separate fact from fiction. And that, ladies and gentlemen, together with the printing press, allowed us to start to disseminate the universe, to build new technologies. And if we build new ideas, we could spread them across the world with the printing press, unlike we had ever been able to do before. And that led to an explosion of things happening. I'm out of breath just thinking about it. And as you see, each industrial revolution was a wave built on a few pillars: energy, transportation, and communication. Very important today, that last one. And every new industrial revolution had those three pillars: energy, transportation, and communication. But the last two, because we have not had one, we had not have two, we had not three, we've had four. And if you would believe me, we're already in the fifth industrial revolution. And the last two, the fourth and the fifth, they are different. Because the fourth included information technology, which was an evolution of communication technology. And the information technology led to intelligence technology, and that's where we are today. But the important thing to realize here is that each wave built on the previous one. And in the last 400 years, that means that everything we know, the chairs we sit on, the clothing we wear, the phones we love to use, everything you know, everything you touch, everything you eat is either produced or thought of or made with a technology or science invented in the last 400 years. Which means that 99.999% of all technology and science was invented in the last 0.03% of all of human existence. Let that sink in for a moment. We've been around for 1 million years, and it's only been in the last 400 years that all of that took place. And it looks like this. Super professional graph. And for those of you paying attention, this is ChatGPT, right? Already 4 years ago. This is the pyramids of Giza, and this is Cleopatra. And if you're good at math, which I know none of you are anymore because we have computers, but you would see that the time between the pyramids construction and the reign of Cleopatra is less than the time between Cleopatra and the launch of ChatGPT. And this is, again, one of those moments where you can realize that we humans are simply not capable of understanding the world we live in. We don't understand the massive ocean that is time and the tiny inkly bit that we're living through. And then, of course, there's the philosophical question. We are in the present, which is only the separation between the future and the past. How does that work? And whatever we see has already happened. Well, I won't bother you with that. So my conclusion of today, and you could leave after this if you want to, is that what we're facing is exponential change, an accelerating process of technological driven disruption. And it is now finally at a pace where this means that in the next 5 to 10 years, we will see more than 100 years of change in our world. And now maybe you're thinking to yourself, well, this place, Dumu Fabrikas, I'll probably pronounce that wrong, but it has been around quite long. It's not going to be gone, right? Well, probably not. The Notre Dame is still around. We have big old buildings in Europe all over that are still around. But inside of those buildings, everything has changed. These chairs, the way they're produced, didn't exist 30 years ago. The Wi-Fi in this building didn't exist 20 years ago. The routers that they're using didn't exist 10 years ago. And the internet connection that we're all using didn't exist. And so really quickly things happen. And everything changes. And to kind of drive that home, I want to introduce you to the 6, I only have a picture of 4, but the 6 women that invented the first digital computer. And it was really hard because all the pictures of these women, well, I have to say all the pictures of this computer have men on them, which is the concierge, who never did anything. But I did find a picture of these women. 100 years ago, in 1936, they created the ENIAC, a computer the size of about this part of the room. And the transistors in there were the size of my arm. You can see them, they have them in their hands. And in 100 years, actually in 90 years' time, we went to transistors that are so small that it's hard to comprehend. And I'm going to show you. This is a banana, and we're going to zoom in all the way to the transistor. And there we have it, the modern transistor. 1 trillion times smaller than it was only 90 years ago. 1 trillion times. I don't even know how many zeros that is, I'm gonna be honest with you. No idea. And yet this really happened. We have machines that can create these things that are bloody miracles. And I'm proud to say they're made by only one company in the world, and they're from the Netherlands. Because if it ain't Dutch, it ain't much. Oh, I'm sorry. So in the last century, we saw our compute power rise. For $1 corrected for inflation 100 years ago, well, actually for $1 you would get 1/1,000,000th of a compute, which was a waste. Because if you get anybody off the street back then, they would be able to compute much faster, much better than a computer. But that didn't stop the scientists from trying to make it better. And so by the 90s, when I was a small wee boy, I played Wolfenstein 3D and Doom, for those of you that know what I'm talking about. No? Yesterday was Google I.O. They even tried to have AI write code for Doom, because everything is benchmarked with Doom these days. If your refrigerator cannot run Doom, it's not a really good refrigerator. But that was the 90s. 1,000 computations for $1 corrected for inflation. And now in 2026, and actually this chart's already outdated, because this is 1 trillion at the top. 2025, we hit 1 trillion computations per $1, and now we are at 100 trillion computations per $1 already. Unbelievable, and the exponentiality keeps going. And on top of that, we did something really crazy that most people don't know about. Well, most people don't know about what I just showed you either. But in 2001, we did something incredible. Thanks to the rise of the internet, thanks to computers, we as humanity in the year 2001 created more data, more information in a single year than in the entirety of human history prior, including the libraries of Alexandria, etc., that were burned down. Our best estimations. Now you can all guess, and this is going to be a group effort, so I want you all to participate if you can. In 2002, we did something incredible, and it's around the theme of this talk. What do you think we did? We? Yeah? Say it louder. I heard it. We doubled it. Yes. Okay, so we're going to do this all together, okay? I'm going to say 2003, and then you're all going to say, we doubled it, and then I'm going to continue, okay? So let's do that. Let's see if we can do that. Are we ready? It's been a long day. We got to get the energy back. Maybe we want to stand up for this. Let's stand up. Everybody stand up. In 2003, we doubled it. And in 2004, we doubled it. In 2005, we doubled it. In 2006, we doubled it. And we doubled it every single time until the year 2026. You can sit down, thank you. So not only did we get 1 trillion times more information and 1 trillion times more compute, we combined those two. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what created the law of accelerating returns. And the law of accelerating returns is what drives the exponential development of technology today. Because if you can make a better chip, you can do more complicated computation. And with more complicated computation, you can design a better chip, and so forth, and so on. And if you have more data, and you throw that into more compute, then you get the same thing again. And that is what led to modern artificial intelligence. And that does not stop today, because we are on a trip, a race to the singularity.
Certainly got to 2029, these computers will know everything that human beings will know. We're going to expand that at an unprecedented rate in terms of scientific progress. So by 2045, we'll expand what we know at least 1 million times, which is quite hard to understand. That's why we call it the singularity.
Imagine that. Can we even imagine that? Can you imagine knowing 1 million times more than what you know right now without going crazy? Can you imagine that we'll have to compute to actually do something with that data, and it might even be built into your brain? Right now, that sounds crazy, right? And that's exactly what I said at the start, right? Or well, actually, Arthur C. Clarke said, if I tell you what the future's really like, you're gonna think I'm crazy. People will tell you it's not gonna happen. Can't happen because there's technological challenges. Can't happen because the Illuminati don't want it to happen. And some people will tell you it's because humans cannot deal with it. In 1900, in my hometown of Amsterdam, they introduced trams. And I know that at least 300 of you today arrived with a train. But back then, people didn't want to get on it. You know why? Most people were afraid that if you get on a tram or a train and it goes faster than 40 kilometers an hour, this was an urban myth at the time, your body would explode because it could not deal with the stress. And yet, here we are today. Astronauts recently went to the moon at 60,000 kilometers an hour. Don't let anybody tell you it's impossible. And if there's one country in the world where they know that nothing is impossible, it's China. This was China in 1960. And it looks like Amsterdam in 1900, 60 years earlier. People didn't have shoes, most people didn't have running water, and most people did not have electricity. And yet China today looks like this. And I was there recently, just 3 weeks ago. I spent 10 days in Shenzhen, and it's like a cyberpunk city. Like you literally stepped into the movie Blade Runner, with all the skyscrapers having LED lights, drones flying around. But what really struck me is that you don't hear any cars. You don't smell any exhaust, because everything is electrified and silent. You actually hear birds in the city, and you smell the plants and the trees. I know that we have a weird idea of China over here, but the idea we have of China is outdated in every single way. And because of that, and because of the cultural language barrier, we don't look over there enough to understand that the world is slowly but surely leaving us behind. We had our time at the top as Europe and the US, and now we're still living in that dream. This was a Chinese train conductor, or train engineer, driver, 26 years apart. In 26 years, he went from a train that ran on steam to a train that goes 400 kilometers an hour on a maglev, and you can put, if you had coins in China, which you don't because you have WeChat, but you could put a coin on its side and it wouldn't fall over. There's a wonderful metaphor that can show you exactly how fast technology is progressing at this time. And funny enough, it is that technology itself, just a single aspect of it.
Human beings have dreams. Even dogs have dreams, but not you. You are just a machine, an imitation of life. Can a robot write a symphony? Can a robot turn a canvas into a beautiful masterpiece? Can you?
You tried, it's okay. Now, some of the people here might have seen me 2 years ago at the Web3 Summit here in Vilnius. And at that time, I already showed this fragment, I think. And there was still so many people in the room that thought, it's never gonna happen. AI can't do that. But we all know what's happened, right? I mean, you all know. And if you don't know, I'm gonna remind you. Remember that masterpiece? How many of you can make a masterpiece? How many of you write music? How many of you are Mozart or Bach or what's a super famous Lithuanian artist? Let's go. Anything. Scream it out loud. I can't rehearse that, but great. You see, the thing we humans do is when it suits us, it's suddenly we, the royal we, as in we are great. We can do anything. We are super intelligent. We are the absolute top of the food chain. We are the only intelligent creature on earth. But then the reality is that most of us are pretty average, right? Most of us are only good at maybe 2 things. Are there any consultants in the room? No consultants? Just afraid to admit it? In the Netherlands we have consultants. I don't know about here in Lithuania, but in the Netherlands consultants are good at 2 things. PowerPoint, which is about to be extinct, and padel. Do they play padel over here? But AI is good at anything. And if it isn't already, it will be. And once it's that good, it's software you can copy, right? So all AI will be that good. It doesn't need to sit in a womb for 9 months. It doesn't need to learn in school for 18 years or 16 or... No, it just comes off the shelf once it's ready. And AI can do incredible things. Now, Shelby, are we ready?
Yes, Aragorn. They are ready and waiting. Let's dance.
Right. So I went to the Conservatorium in Amsterdam and I asked the best musicians in the country how they feel about AI making music. And they said to me, Aragorn, it's a very scary time. Some of us are very, very excited and others are really scared. Because the truth is that music created by AI now is better than 98% of musicians in the world on a technical level. If you want to get up and swing along, that's perfectly fine.
Vilnius wide awake, the future's calling loud. Telia Technology Day, unstoppable crowd. Engineers and dreamers, every screen alight. Racing towards tomorrow, holding nothing back tonight. Racing towards the future, logical change.
Did you listen to the lyrics? I hope you did. She made them especially for you. So funny thing is, a man was arrested more than a year ago already for making $100 for using AI to generate music, put it on Spotify and Apple Music, and then he went to the dark web and he got a botnet. Do you know what a botnet is? Yeah, if you hijack like a lot of computers, and then he listened to his own voice, songs. It's freaking genius. Freaking genius. A million listens a day. He was racking it in. They caught him, such a shame. That was 2 years ago. So the good thing is, this is not bad. You know why? Because 150 years ago was the same. The only music we really cared about was live music. You know why? Because we didn't have Spotify and we couldn't even record music. So the only music that mattered in the world was live music. And now, basically the same has happened. Because once AI can make music that is technically better than anything a human can make, it is absolutely a commodity. It is abundance. And you can have as much of it as you like, which basically means that it's worthless. It can be useful, but it's not expensive. So then the question is, what is value? We, ladies and gentlemen, are heading into a second renaissance. Because the only thing that will retain its value over the next years, and I'm talking 10, 15, 20 years, will be human-made things. Not because they're better, but because they're human. Because the only thing an AI can never be, the only thing a robot can never be is human. With all our flaws, with all our limitations. It will never sweat, it will never have blood and tears. Now, I thought maybe it's the end of the day, so one more song. Listen to the lyrics. This one is to really get you pumped. I hope you like it. 3, 2, 1. Okay, I know maybe this is not for everybody. Just needed to make sure everybody's awake, you know. And if you did like it, you can buy my album on the way out. It's gonna be, I don't know, 100,000 SEK? Is that a good price? No? I don't know, okay. Ooh. Now, of course, it didn't stop with music. Because what was next? Video. And in 2023, this is what video looked like. Everybody was laughing me to scorn when I said that this meant that video production was soon to be completely done by AI. But everybody laughed. And then 2026 arrived. And we got AI videos like this.
That's the good stuff. And that's a wrap.
You can create things like this with a prompt in like 30 seconds, right? Something that used to cost 10,000, 100,000 US dollars, or, you know, euros or whatever. Last week I made this new intro video for our podcast. The wave is coming. Look who it is. You're not impressed, okay. No, it's okay. I prepared for that. So this is my future apartment, well, the balcony. Now just having a little look around our moon city built by Elon Musk. You know it's me, and you know it's real because look at that handsome guy with that wonderful mullet. But I wanted to do something really special. I wanted to show you what's possible in 15 minutes with just a few pictures. Now, I'm not saying it's 100% the same, but do you recognize this place? Have any of you been up there outside on the balcony? Well, this is how I arrived today. Special delivery.
Welcome to Telia Technology Day 2026. Let's ride!
And I have to say special thanks to Telia, because if they hadn't made such an amazing internet connection, I could have generated this, but it would have taken me 10 years to download it. So what's in store for us? Well, it's not just about music or videos. There's much more happening. Now, all of you have probably seen this bell curve about IQ. And most of you probably believe that the average IQ in the world is 100. Well, what if I told you that's not true? What if I told you that the average IQ of 100 only lasts in the Western world with good education, and Lithuania is very much at the top of those countries. The Netherlands, I think the average is 98, and here I think you actually hit 100. It's hard for me to admit that Lithuanians are smarter than Dutch people. But the truth is that the most of the rest of the world, the average IQ is 89. So what's AI doing? Well, let me compare that for you. This is 2022 when AI kicked off at around 50 IQ. And this is where we are today. And this white bubble is actually Claude Mythos running wild. Which means that the average person in the room here, if you have an Android phone, especially after yesterday's Google I/O, anybody have iPhone? Raise of hands. Let's just give it up for these poor iPhone people. No AI. And your privacy's gone too, because Google is going to provide the AI, so... I'm sorry, I love hating Apple. But this is the average IQ of AI right now that you can get. 130 for Gemini in your pocket, 140, which is way above the average for humans, with the best models already running 180. Which means that a year from now, you'll have 150, 160 in your pocket, and the year after that, probably 200. And that's going to change everything. Now, here's some benchmarks, just to quickly go through them. Because 2 years ago, when I started this, AI was really bad at math. We were somewhere below here. So people said AI is never going to be any good because it can't do math. Well, this, ladies and gentlemen, yellow bar is the best math experts in the world as a team working unlimited. And this at the top is some of the latest AI models. A whole generation of scientists is giving everything over to AI at the Institute for Advanced Science in the US. They literally had a meeting on this because the AI is so good that they do not care about privacy anymore because they are revolutionizing science. And it's not just math. which, by the way, went from 2 to 40% on the hardest math test in human history in just 14 months. And by the way, a single human can't even hit 10%. Simple logic was another thing they said. AI cannot do simple logic. AI cannot answer the question if Tom Cruise's mother is called Maria, who is Maria's son. AI couldn't do that 2 years ago, right? Human baseline is still peaking at 83%. But Gemini 3.1, which was deprecated yesterday by Gemini 3.5 Flash, already scored 79%. And Claude Opus 4.7 is not even on there. Neither is GPT 5.5. Both of those have already hit the human baseline. So even in simple bench, simple logic, common knowledge, AI has caught up with us. The only two fields that we still had left. Claude Mythos is a model released by Anthropic. Well, not released by Anthropic, I should say, because they didn't want to release it because it was too dangerous for the world, they said, a month ago. And they only gave it to certain organizations to use it to find bugs and security risks. And here you see Firefox security bug fixes by month, which is a browser, right? Anybody doesn't know? Firefox, not a lot of people use it anymore, but it's like the alternative to Chrome. And every month they had an average of 20 bug fixes. And as you can see, in April alone, they went up to 423 because they had access to Claude Mythos, and Claude Mythos identified more than 400 bugs that were security risks. AI did in a single month what hundreds and thousands of developers couldn't do across a decade. And my friends were still saying, well, I don't know, especially the ones that are lifetime developers. So I joined an online competition for coding. And I have never written a line of code in my life, ladies and gentlemen, but I have built a very special AI agent with a harness, and all of you can do it. It's not hard, but I did. I just spent time on it. And I wanted to prove my developer friends that I could beat the best in the world. So I joined a competition where I had to solve a coding problem, and there were 7,000 of the best coders in the world. And I told my AI assistant called Shelby, which is basically Claude Code and Codex together, I said, fix it. That's what I said. So the first attempt, I was number 223 on the ranking. By the way, I was cheating because you weren't allowed to use AI, but I didn't tell them that. Then I said, you can do better. And then I was 115. And then I said, you suck, you can do better. Because anxiety works. I don't recommend it if you want to survive the singularity, but it does work if you want to get your AI to work harder today. And when I said, you suck, you can do better, I'll have Codex double check it, I suddenly scored the top 10. And my friends could not believe it. They could not believe it. I have friends that have been developers for 10 years, and now I tell them that I have 100 agents running at the same time, coding shit, and they simply can't believe what's happening. And I'm just, the top 1%. But this is gonna go downstream. Right? This is somewhere, I'm even outside of this circle probably. And when people say, I use AI, the truth is they're not. If you have used ChatGPT, you're not using AI. If you use Gemini, you're not using AI. I'm sorry. You've just, tried it maybe, and you've dipped your little toe in. And it's not hard, because you just talk to it. But this is what's going to happen. This circle is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and eventually all of us are going to be in a completely different world. And you can see that happening in revenue streams, because Claude Anthropic, the company behind Claude, one of the two biggest AI companies in the world, their revenue has grown from the start of the year, right? This is not years. This is months, ladies and gentlemen. And in January, Anthropic's revenue was 1 billion. And today, Anthropic's revenue is already over 50 billion, because this chart is already 2 weeks old. And we haven't even begun. We haven't even begun. Because technically, AI is right now in the 80s of what the internet was. And the speed and the acceleration of that process lead to deflation. When electricity was first released, it took 70 years for it to become available to normal people. To be available, to be, affordable. When the same happened with computer memory, it took just a few decades. I'll admit, right now it's pretty expensive, but due to AI, but with AI inference, it was less than months. And year over year, the cost of intelligence goes down by 99%. The best model today will be 99% cheaper next year, and then again 99% cheaper the year after that. Of course, there will be newer models, but that's how fast it goes. And everybody has access to it. Just like your phone is no worse than that of Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, right?
When is all white-collar work gone? There's a lot of inertia. So even with AI at its current state, I'd say you're pretty close to being able to replace half of all jobs. Anything short of shaping atoms, AI can do probably half or more of those jobs right now.
And I know there's a lot of AI hate, I know there's a lot of Elon hate. Actually, AI hate is also already rising in the world because people don't really understand what's going on and they think that it's just bad, but I'll get to that. But there's a lot of Elon hate as well. But I work together with Professor Volberda from the University of Amsterdam, and he works together among many other organizations with the World Economic Forum, and they did a deep research already 2 years ago. And this research showed that in the European Union, 59% of workers will need complete reskilling by 2030 because their work is so completely different that they cannot do it anymore with the skills they have today. And up to 70% of jobs could be so different that more than 30% of people or more than 30% of tasks in the labor market will completely be replaced. It's hard to imagine for people. A lot of people are scared because we're so used to this life where we have a job and we make money and our whole existence is based on that. But I want to remind you, especially now, that as I've shown you, we've been around for 1 million years. And capitalism has only been around for a few thousand. That means that 99% or 98% at least of human history, we did not have democracy, we did not have capitalism, and most of us were pretty happy because we even found time to make paintings in caves, but naked. Just because we haven't experienced it yet doesn't mean it's not possible. We are now again at a time where things are going to completely change, just like the Enlightenment and Gutenberg's printing press changed everything 400 years ago. We will invent new systems, new economies, new ways of life. But the disruption, the transition, will be difficult. Research has shown that there is exposure to AI in the job market. And there are several tools, this one's for the Dutch labor market, that show which jobs are most exposed. Everything in red can already be basically done by an AI. The only reason it's not being done by an AI is because the companies don't want to fire people, people are not yet used to it, organizational structures are not changing fast enough, or policies are not in place. But all of that is going to rapidly happen because there will be companies very soon that are showing such competitive advantages that everybody else will have no choice but to follow if they want to compete, even if they know where that leads. And it doesn't stop at white-collar work, which already was a big surprise for most of us. No, physical is next. This was 26 years ago, or actually 22.
Get the hell out of here!
And this is today. It's quite loud, but this is the figure 3, and this is a live stream. I hope it will start if I click. This is a live stream of figure 3. It's been working for 165 hours. Well, not alone, because there's a few of them. Which one's right? Oh, this is Rose. Okay, there's Rose and there's Gary and Frank, I think. They've already sorted 205,000 packages. So what they do is they turn them upside down to make sure that the code is on the right side. This is an actual job. People do this stuff. I know most of you have dream jobs, but there's lots of people that do stuff like this. It's unbelievable. And so why do we want these people to keep their jobs? Let's set everybody free. But robots can do that now. The human that was competing with this robot gave up at 115,000. The robots kept going. Right now, there's more than 200 companies in the world building humanoid robots. And the only reason they're making so much progress is because of AI. Because AI helps them build them, AI helps them design them, AI helps them operate them, AI is helping them train them, AI is helping building virtual worlds called like omniverse that are basically matrices where time runs 100 times faster than in reality, where millions of robots are all training at the same time. And when I was in Shenzhen, there was 30,000 companies in China building parts for these robots because China knows what's happening. And when I asked the Chinese people why they're doing this, they said because of aging populations. Because the Chinese population is getting older, we do not have enough young people. If we want to keep our economies going, we will need to have labor. And the same is true in Europe, and the same is true in the US. And if we lose jobs, isn't that amazing? Because I am taking my 81-year-old mother to live with me because she can no longer take care of herself, and we do not have the economy of the 90s where I could just send her to a very nice old people's home. Not that I mind, because I love spending time with my mother, but I need to have less work if I want to spend more time with her. Isn't that great? Some people might not like their parents so much, or their spouse parents. Humanoid robots are going to explode onto the market. You'll see. Right now we're sitting, at a few 100,000. By 2030 there will be 160 million, which is nothing. That's 1 in every 5,700 people in the EU. So you won't barely see them. But by 2035 there will be 600 million, and by 2040 there will be 3 billion of them, and I can tell you, you will see them every single day, because basically every household will have one, because they will cost less than $10,000 US, which is cheaper than a cleaning lady, if you think about it, because cleaning lady comes once every 2 weeks, or cleaning man if you have one. Mine costs 400 euros a month. So I could lease a robot for 200, 300 less probably, and it would be mine in a year, and it would work 24/7. Just do the math. Right? It's easy. The return on investment is massive in the household and in the factory. BMW has already 100 of these running. And that's just a test, but they're doing great. Shelby, is there anything I forgot? Oh yes, is the dashboard ready?
Yes, Aragorn. The Telia Technology Day Market Intelligence Report is ready as you requested. It's available at Telia Taška Itzimer Metaverse Taška.com right now.
Oh, well, I wasn't sure that was going to be ready, but you can scan the QR code there. And so you see this is McKinsey, that company that charges way too much money for advice. So I did for free for all of you, for this industry, with my AI in about 15 minutes, what used to cost you a lot of money. And you can find it under that QR code. And you can thank me later. One of the things people say about AI is you cannot rely on it because it doesn't speak the truth. It hallucinates, but all of that is nonsense. If you set it up right, if you have the right harness, you can double do any fact checking and you won't have any problems. And this is why this report, all AI generated, has all the references, all the reports, all the data. In the bottom you can find it and you can check it all. And if you find anything in there that's not true, I'll send you a book.
Well, if everyone is done scanning the QR code, you might want to tell them about their very long retirement.
That's right. 1 minute left. Retirement. AI is not just changing the job market, or how we generate content, or what we do on our computers. It's changing science and longevity. And yesterday at Google I/O, one of my big heroes, one of the best AI scientists in the world right now, Demis Hassabis, was talking about what they are achieving right now with Gemini.
Our biological models like AlphaFold and AlphaGenome have already become standard research tools used by millions of scientists around the world to make important advances in their fields. Always believed the #1 application of AI should be to improve human health. At Isomorphic Labs, we're modeling molecular interactions to massively accelerate the development of new medicines. We're now in preclinical stage with multiple projects, including potential treatments for immune disorders and cancer. Our mission is to reimagine the drug discovery process with the goal of one day solving all disease. Something that would have seemed impossible just a few years ago, but I truly believe is now within reach.
If I can give you one tip today and you forget everything else, it would be don't die. And I mean, don't die in the next 5 years. Don't walk in front of a bus. Don't do anything stupid. Because I guarantee you, and I know this is hard to believe, but I promise you I'd say something that you wouldn't believe. Within the next decade, we will solve all cancer, all major disease, and we will reverse aging. All of you will be able to become 200, 300, 400 years old if you so choose. And we've already done it, in fact. China reversed aging in monkeys last summer. They took a whole bunch of macaque monkeys. They gave them proteins developed with new my Japanese is really bad. Yamanaka factors. And they injected these monkeys in 64 different tissues. And they went back from being old to being young, like 20 years younger. They tested them for anti-immune disease or cancers or anything, and they were completely healthy. These are primates, ladies and gentlemen. And so, in February this year, the first clinical trials have started in the US under Dr. David Sinclair of doing the same with humans. And we started small. He's reverting the age of eyes in old people. And they have a virus injected that makes their eyes become young again. And once they are young enough, they take an antibiotics pill specially designed that stops the aging process. So it's basically reversing aging. And it works. And now they're going to test other tissues. I guarantee you that by the end of this year, we will have the first human tests of somebody becoming completely young again. Now, some people think that's a horrible idea. But my name is Aragorn. And if you've ever read The Lord of the Rings or any other fantasy story, you know that the wisest creatures are the elves. And there's two things about elves that is always the same in all books, and all stories and all folklore. They live very long, up to 1,000 years, and they have very little offspring. And because of those two things, they become very wise and they appreciate life so much more. AI will turn us into elves. At least that is my great hope. And with that, I want to finish it up, and I want to hand it over for the final message to my two greatest heroes in the world, Arthur C. Clarke and Isaac Asimov.
We will have our robot becoming less metal, more organic. At the same time, we will have human beings who will make more and more use of artificial organs. We may have a society in which robots will drift away from total metal toward the organic, and human beings will drift away from the total organic toward the metal and plastic. Now, when we have a kind of hybrid creature, will it matter that he was originally metal and became metal organic, or that he was originally organic and became metal organic? Will we then have formed a kind of mixed culture which perhaps might be higher, more efficient than either culture separately, if I can call the robot system?
Even greater changes are still to come, because the future is not merely an extension of the present with bigger and better machines and cities and gadgets. It'll be fundamentally different. And many of the things we take for granted will one day pass away as completely as spinning wheels and sedan chairs and oil lamps. The only thing we can be sure of about the future is that it will be absolutely fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Thank you well, Aragorn, for such an inspiring, I would say, show. It's, I'm speechless. It's truly outstanding. Do you have time for a few questions?
I have plenty of time, but I heard that lots of people need to catch a train, so I don't want to hold them up. But
the train comes in 1 hour, so we have. Let's answer a few questions because there are a few, and then we go home. One question related actually to your last match, or one of the last messages. Why are we building humanoid robots Is there a specific reason for choosing such form? It doesn't seem that it's the most sustainable form for a robot.
Yeah, I have this conversation a lot because roboticists themselves are basically on the fence. There's some that say it's incredible and others say it's stupid. Why don't you just make a robot with wheels? It's much easier, it doesn't fall over. But think about it. 6 million years of evolution led to this form. There's a reason for that. And not just that, in the last 10,000 years, all the world, the infrastructure we built, is built around this form. So if you want to make it easy to inject this new technology and do anything that a human can do and replace us so that we will have time to do other things, then we should make something that perfectly fits into those places with minimal effort. And that is the human form.
Fair enough, fair enough. Will our bodies adapt to changes? Maybe we will have artificial brains, Neuralinks to communicate between people without word sound. What will we'll lose then?
That's a very good question. What will we lose? The question is that the right question to ask? I mean, every one of us has probably once in his life fallen on this little thing here we call a tailbone, right? That's because once we had a tail. It was super useful back then. Do we need it today? No, we don't. Things change. We evolve. What we needed in the past, we might not need in the future. And to think that change should not happen and that it will not happen is to fool ourselves.
Well, a tail could be a useful artistic expression still today. I've seen examples. Okay, last questions maybe. Last question. Can you elaborate on whether AI will fundamentally reshape how money and the global monetary system work, and in what ways that might happen?
Well, in the 90s, when Star Trek Next Generation and then Voyager and then Deep Space Nine came out, people started talking about the Star Trek economy, a world in which money did not exist. But at the time, it wasn't really taken serious. Nobody really thought that that could actually happen. And most scientists only treated it like a kind of, funny hobby thing. But there's now tens of thousands of scientists worldwide and economists that are really starting to take this serious. And they're finally starting to use, for example, wargaming, like we heard before in my talk, right? Wargaming and such, to build scenarios, do simulations on a world where money is not what it is today. I think we would be fools to think that we are at the pinnacle of evolution, that we are the end of everything, right? Because that's what it would mean. If capitalism and economies that we have today are the best we will ever have, that means we're at the end. It would mean that it's not the start of the journey. And I believe that that is actually what's true. We are at the start of the journey. We're only in the 1%. And there's, just like the spectrum of light, probably 1 trillion different possibilities. We just haven't thought of them yet.
Aragorn, thank you so much for being with us today. Let's make a big round of applause for Aragorn. Thank you very much.